and a lovely neighborhood couple, William and Susan Baker, took in myself and my younger sister, Sarah. The Bakers were wonderful people. They loved us and showered us with affection, and I could not be more grateful for them. Unfortunately, our hearts were broken when Sarah passed away at 3 years and 7 months. The Bakers buried her next to my mother and our siblings under the name Darling Pet, yet they neglected to put her name on the tombstone. I suppose that grief liked to follow Ms. Baker around because a few short years after that, Mr. Baker passed away as well. I suppose that having to care for me in this time helped her through the heartache due to the illness that I had had. My constitution, it sustained such a shock that I was left with a physical debility. Luckily, Ms. Baker was able to heal, and she found love again and remarried a man named Jesse Oakes, a wonderful man. He was a deacon in the church. He was wonderful and raised myself during most of my teenage years. However, my birth family never did make it back together during mortality. My father recovered and managed to repair and mend his broken heart, found love again and remarried a wonderful woman named Isabella Brogan. They moved to Nicktaw and had 6 more children. The younger 2, who were taken in by my Aunt Hannah, lived full, wonderful lives into adulthood. However, Emmeline, the one of my siblings who moved to Boston, she was there for 10 years before she suffered an illness that took her life at age 24. Her body and her remains, they were brought back here, and she was placed under this stone with my mother and our siblings. However, her name is not on the stone. A few years later, just before my 20th birthday, I joined them as well, and the Bakers placed me here under my own stone. While this dreaded disease, it tore my family apart, I have faith and I know that all families can be together forever one day, including mine.
Thank you.
Yeah, like tuberculosis was an illness that took young Gilbert's life, and diphtheria that affected the Robinson family. These are illnesses that we don't hear about too much these days because there's vaccines to prevent them. Most of us have been inoculated against them. But back in that time, there was no such thing as a vaccine. And sometimes it took time for the doctors to even figure out what the illness was. When we had the records and I was putting them into the computer, I was making note that there seemed to be a large number of people that passed away in the cemetery here in 1860. And it was shortly after that that I learned about what was known as the diphtheria epidemic that hit Nova Scotia. It started in 1859 and it lasted until 1861. And through the obituaries that Rick has put on the website, we've been able to confirm 19 people in this little community that passed away as a direct result of diphtheria. There are a few others that may have died because of that illness, but their obituaries don't specify that. And then there are others, like Clara, who was affected by the illness, but it wasn't a direct result, it was more an after effect that caused their early demise. But to recognize those that did die of this terrible illness, I mean, this is a very small community, and to have 19 people pass away within a year is a lot. We commemorated them by